Trump heads to Europe for summit with trade allies in a storm of tweets slamming China and worst deals, but not a word about Putin ahead of Friday meeting. President Donald Trump is headed back to Europe hoping to receive a friendly welcome in Poland despite lingering skepticism across the continent over his commitment to NATO, his past praise of Russian President Vladimir Putin and his decision to pull the U.S. out of a major climate agreement. The U.S. President and his wife, Melania Trump, took off for Warsaw on Wednesday morning for a brief visit before a gathering of the G20 in Germany. President Trump made it clear that trade and North Korea would be at the top of his agenda in a series of tweets he sent out just before he left the White House that mentioned China and bad deals, but said nothing about Moscow or Putin. The United States made some of the worst trade deals in world history. Why should we continue these deals with countries that do not help us? He said in one. Several minutes later, Trump tweeted, "Trade between China and North Korea grew almost 40% in the first quarter. So much for China working with us, but we had to give it a try." He told reporters soon after, as he was boarding Marine One, that the U.S. would do very well in the talks this week, in response to shouted questions about North Korea. Trump arrived in Poland, an ex-communist country that is now one of the United States' staunchest European allies, later on Wednesday for a short stay that includes a speech in Krasinski Square, near the site of the 1944 Warsaw Uprising against the Nazis. He'll also meet with the leaders of Poland and Croatia and hold a joint news conference with Polish President Andrzej Duda. It will be the American media's first opportunity to question the U.S. president at a news conference in almost a month. Before moving on to an international summit in Germany, the president will also hold meetings with the leaders of a dozen countries located between the Baltic, Adriatic and Black Seas at a summit of the Three Seas Initiative, which aims to expand and modernize energy and trade. One of the initiative's goals is to make the region less dependent on Russian energy. The White House said last week that Trump would like to develop a common approach to Russia, while he is abroad during a briefing where top U.S. officials would not commit to a discussion with Putin about Moscow's election meddling. As the president has made clear, he'd like the United States and the entire West to develop a more constructive relationship with Russia. But he's also made clear that we will do what is necessary to confront Russia's destabilizing behavior, Trump's chief national security aide, H.R. McMaster, said. Trump's stop in Poland on the way to Germany is both functional and symbolic in nature. The U.S. ally will meet Trump's demand that NATO members meet or exceed their pledge to spend 2% of their GDP on the group's common defense. It is in many ways a front-line NATO nation in connection with threats on the eastern flank, McMaster said last week. In his speech, Trump will thank the country for partnering with the U.S. in combat missions in Afghanistan and in Iraq and express his desire to create robust, open and fair markets that drive economic growth and leave no countries hostage to energy market manipulation, McMaster said. Even if he doesn't mention Putin or Russia outright, just stepping foot in Poland sends a powerful statement, said Jim Karadefano, the foreign policy analyst at the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank. Karadefano told the Associated Press, Europe is working for energy independence, looking for free market solutions, and Poland is in the middle of that energy corridor. So it makes so much sense that the president would go there and talk about energy policy. Before Trump's arrival, Poland's government emphasized that Russia's aggression in Ukraine poses a threat to the whole of Europe, something that will inevitably be raised in discussions with Trump as Europeans seek to gauge the president's willingness to confront Putin before their first face-to-face meeting later this week. Poland is, in some ways, the poster child for some of the issues that the Trump administration has been stressing, said Jeffrey Rath, Deputy Director of the Europe Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. They're betting that this relationship with the United States on defense will balance their concerns about the possible directions of U.S. Russia policy. Poland also hopes Trump's visit will reinforce its position with European partners as it faces allegations of backsliding on democracy. The right-wing government is also one of only 3 European Union countries, along with Hungary and Austria, refusing to accept any relocated refugees, in legal violation of EU quotas. Trump, too, has been working to curb refugee admissions to the U.S. as part of his travel ban, that went into effect last week after the nation's high court intervened.